Hey guys, Daniel here, and in this video we're going to be making a knife, but before we get started, I'd like you to vote up here in this little corner whether or not you want me to have music in my other videos. So, thanks, and let's get started.
So I started out with this file because I thought this knife looked cool, I guess, and I printed it out, glued it down to a piece of steel and traced it out. I'll leave a link to the guy's channel that I got this from, so if you want to try and make it, you can too. So first things first, I had to cut the steel down to a more manageable size and get as much material off as I could in the first go. And then I took the angle grinder and I cut down lots of little lines all the way down to the part I had traced out. And then I got the cutoff wheel and went in sideways and cut those off. And I went all the way through the whole knife like that and got the majority of the extra steel off. Then I went through with a grinding attachment and ground out the rest of the shape. Grinding this bevel in was a little difficult because it's the first time I'd ever done anything like this, and I didn't have a jig, so I was doing it by hand. And I ended up having to redo it later, but it turned out okay. And of course I set up the camera at a horrible angle for filming this, but what I'm doing is I'm cutting in holes for the brass pins that I'm going to use to attach the blade to the handle with. And then I sanded down the rest of the lines by hand because I didn't have any finer grits for my belt sander at the time, so it took forever. But this isn't sped up. I just drank like 5 Red Bulls before I got started, so it'd go a little bit faster. Now that I've got the shape of the knife handle, gotta fire up the foundry and stick it in, heat it up, and quench it. I made sure to heat it all the way up to where it wouldn't attach to a magnet anymore, and then I quenched it in canola oil at 130 degrees, because that's what the internet said to do. I tested it with a file, and it wasn't really quite as hard as I liked it to be, so I ended up re-quenching it, but I didn't film that. I cleaned it off with a wire brush and then tempered it in a toaster oven. I thought this pattern looked pretty cool on it, and I considered leaving it on, but I figured that it would end up getting covered in scratches and wouldn't look so good, so I started sanding again. And it, again, took forever. After I shined it up, I did not regret doing it at all. It looked much better. I got the wood from a really old broken cherry table of ours, and I cut it out to the basic shape of the handle on the scroll saw. We tried drilling the holes in the scales by hand first, but they weren't quite straight enough, so we redid it on the drill press later. I did a lot of things twice, but this is my first knife. I got my dad to help with some of the gluing and the wood and stuff like that, because that's more like what he does. I'm better at working with metals. We just used a 5-minute epoxy like what you can pick up at Home Depot or Lowe's. This part was pretty straightforward. You just assemble it all together with a bunch of glue in between. We used a little more than we needed to, but better safe than sorry. And we put a whole lot of clamps on there. We were not going to have this thing come apart on us. It was only after I had attached the wood and pins that I realized that my handle was way too thick. So I used a hacksaw to saw all the way down through the wood and the pins on both sides. And it was a little exhausting, but it got the job done. At this point it was looking great, but I still had a couple of things I needed to do. I needed to sharpen the knife and to put some sort of protective coating over the wood. So after I sharpened it, I figured, now I gotta do all these fancy sharpness tests that you see on everybody else's video, and it turned out pretty well. This was it. Time for the ultimate challenge. The mighty tomato. Will it cut? Yes, it will, and for only $19.99, it can be yours today. Not just kidding, but this is like what they do on the commercials, so I figured I had to try it too. And after doing this, I, of course, had to sharpen some of my mom's kitchen knives, and now they can all cut tomatoes too. I used boiled linseed oil on the cherrywood, and it brought out some great colors and just made it look good overall.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. And I have a future project that I'm already working on right now, and I'm going to post a video on it soon, but I'm trying to make a golden hammer, and it's going to be super cool. It's going to be aluminum bronze, my favorite metal. So stay tuned if you want to see that video. Thanks.